Good evening. Welcome to the Town Board meeting on Thursday, December 5th. It is 6 o'clock. The public meeting will start at 7 because we need an executive session between 6 to 7. So we're going to do what we usually do, which is salute the flag to start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, bad day. And the emergency exits, I'll repeat again when more people are in the room, although most of them know where they are, and you can do the roll call, Dawn.
Supervisor Blackman?
Here.
Council members Ham?
Here.
And Ahern?
Here.
And let the record reflect that I've been noticed that both Winters and Rebelard were going to be late this evening. And
Okay.
is there a motion to go into
Executive session for committee interviews.
I second that.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Council members?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Microphones. Okay, I think we're ready. Okay, welcome to the Amenia Town Board meeting, Thursday, December 5th. What?
You exit out of executive.
Oh, we have to exit out of executive session. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I second it.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yep.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern? Yes.
We did, we held on just on pointing out the emergency exits because it was just us. So the emergency exit is the door you came through, and this door allegedly opens as well. Public comment. Does anyone have any comments for us this evening? What? Pledge. We did that already.
Oh, okay.
Any public comment? I can see you're trying to think of something, Judy.
No, I was trying to decide whether to say it now or not.
Okay, hello, public comment. I was just looking through the resolution on creating advisory boards, and there were a couple of other things I had questions about too, but one thing in particular, that new boards would create positions for members with a 2-year term, no provision for staggering, no provision for, and also that the board could remove someone basically at their whim for any reason at any time. That my understanding is that's not how it's been done in the past, so I kind of wondered why that was in there, but so that's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, we've had some concerns about that too, so thank you.
Okay, so right now we're at public comment for anything on the agenda.
Yes, public comment for anything on the agenda. Was that it?
Okay, so now you need to open the public hearing.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing now, which is specifically on that issue, the process of establishing new town boards and committees.
Okay, so Leah, you're opening. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Pam? The time is 7:09. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Ahern? Yes. Okay, so I do acknowledge the first public comment for this hearing
That would be
for
Judy.
the purpose of the advisory board. Now we're in that public hearing.
Yes.
You were close.
So if you have more to say, you can say it now, but
You got another 3 minutes.
your 3 minutes starts again. But does anyone else have comments on the process of establishing committees? Okay, well, that was easy. Then I suggest we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Leo, Rosanna. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern? Yes.
Okay, supervisor's report, that would be me. Okay. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I'll move from that to water emergency. We've had another pipe break, and since then we've been investigating a temporary phone alert system for people in the district. Nancy also mailed magnets to everyone in the Water District with emergency numbers to call, since there was a lot of confusion as to how to report that. And we've also asked Delaware to kind of prioritize valve repair so we don't have quite the same kind of disaster the next time a pipe goes out. The sidewalk to Beekman Park we're going to be discussing later, but I think we have verified now that all grants can be extended, but that's been a little bit complicated as well, just in terms of the changes over several years to that project. We have a meeting December 16th for what we hope will be the final union negotiations with the highway employees. The highway garage, the architects have been meeting every 2 weeks with Rosanna and Megan and myself, and Charlie when he's around, but isn't always. And they reviewed changes that they were proposing to the site plan the last time we met. I met with Mike Clark, who's the new manager for Silo, coming from Discovery Land Company, and hopefully we've established a kind of better link to the club. I also met with some folks from Silo about the farmers market. The person at NECC who's been running that is unfortunately leaving NECC, so we're a little bit adrift. And the people that I spoke to were interested in helping us jumpstart that. I think that NECC will be able to be involved, but I think that it would delay the start unless we got help from outside. Fountain Square, Millbrook Bank presented to the Enhancement Committee their proposal for planting improvements. On Tuesday, 2 of the George Whalens and their landscape designer attended. The proposal, which is on that table over there, if anyone wants to look at it, was pretty well received. There are a couple of suggestions of some additional native plants, but people seem pretty happy. And they did clarify that they're providing for all the plants, but the town has to make the electrical and plumbing improvements and the paving changes. So that's on us. So we have to sort of get an idea of what that might be and what it would cost. The Water District, Delaware is going to be presenting their draft PER tonight. Thank you for coming. And the first project focuses on rebuilding the pump house and the wells on Lavelle Road, which are in the worst shape in the system. And we're going to be able to use ARPA money, some of the remaining ARPA money for that, to sort of help pay for that. We have had meetings with our prosecutor and the Z3, our kind of zoning planning consultants, and we're hoping to improve the sort of success rate of our suits with the DOB, and so that's in process, but we're moderately optimistic that there may be some changes there. Amenia's Festival of Lights was this past Sunday. It seemed like everyone had a great time, you especially, Paul, who was dressed as the Grinch. Thanks to the fire company, Enhancement Rec, Town Hall employees, and the Amenia USA community organization for putting this together. Silo Ridge opened their Main Street Bakery for one night as a taste of what's to come, so that was kind of exciting. It looks like we will have a bakery before too long. And we awarded the Amenia Citizen of the Year to Aaron Howard for a really remarkable record of volunteering. Graphic designer, we will be discussing tonight a process for submitting ideas for the town seal, and hopefully that means we can move ahead with hiring a designer for the rest of the process. And that's it. So, thank you.
Okay, so
I
good
think
evening,
you're up.
everybody. The state, county, and local revenues for the town clerk's office for the month of November totaled $375.50, with $349.50 having been remitted to the supervisor. I do share with you...
Closer to our microphone, Dawn.
I did find out earlier today that I am in now receipt of a resignation from our very own Michael Flint as our videographer. It's the board... I know, I'm like...
I know. It's
He's
been a
back
long
there.
run.
He can see us.
Looking grim, actually.
So that means that at this time, I'm asking the board to regretfully accept that.
I'll make that.
Yes.
Nicole, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
There you go. Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
council members Winters,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Also, with that being said, that I do need to seek authorization to go ahead and advertise for said position.
I'll make that motion.
Nicole?
I'll second.
Rosanna? Supervisor?
Yep.
Council members?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
She has to just say yes.
I said yes.
Oh,
I thought I said
now,
yes.
It's taking some adjustment
I
to
know,
get this table.
It is.
So real quick, I do have to announce that I'll be closing the town clerk's office early on December 10th. We'll be closing at 11 a.m. And then we're going to be closing again on Tuesday, December 17th, beginning at 12:30. If anybody needs anything from the town clerk's office, always feel free to give us an email or visit our website, www.ameniany.gov, where a lot of helpful information and answers to many of your questions are located. Do have a couple of announcements of activities that are going on actually this weekend. Pauling and in Dover, they are neighboring communities. So the supervisor asked that I share with you that Sun River Health is going to be offering services. They have their travel bus where they offer flu shots, answer questions on health insurance, health screenings, medical screenings, dental appointments, and evaluations. So if you're unable to get to your local location here in Amenia, there is a special activities going on at the Pauling Elementary School as well as the Dover School, and those dates are this weekend, December 7th and December, starts on the 6th and then on the 7th. We'll have this flyer up in the front of the town when you guys first come in. I know it's the last minute notice, but it just hot off the press. As we start to think about the rest of December, we're all getting ready in our holiday. We all know I like to talk about our breakfast at the Amenia Firehouse. So that's coming up on Sunday, December 15th. After you come and fill those bellies, head on down to Wasaik. They're going to be having their parade of lights on the 15th, and that lineup is at 5:30 for their parade to kick off at 6. So
Also on the 15th is the Living Nativity and Immaculate Conception. There'll be vendors, a bake sale, live animals from over there in Connecticut.
it's like a perfect
What kind of
day.
animal?
You come in, have breakfast, go to
camel.
mass,
camel,
go to
that's
the
exciting.
events, and then head
And there's
down
also
for
the
parade.
Celtic music event, which is 2 to 4, I believe,
So the
in the auditorium.
15th, it sounds
a
like there's a
full day.
lot
The
going on
place is
in
going to be
Amenia.
rocking.
Wow. Wow. That's good. We don't have to cook that day. Thank you. I got permissions. Okay, so with that being said, one last announcement. We are going to be having our special reorganizational meeting on Thursday, January 2nd, and we're going to be starting at 6 p.m. So save the date, mark your calendars. That's our next meeting.
We're starting the actual meeting at 6 p.m. In other words, it's not an executive session.
We're going to
We just
start.
want to get a little more time because that's always an incredibly long piece of a long document to read.
Wait a minute, Dawn,
Yes.
did you want to announce that we've been interviewing or no?
Oh, yeah, so tonight you guys did have the opportunity to interview. Okay, great. Are you guys ready to make any decisions on that?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay, great. So the board knows they did have an executive session. They had the opportunity to interview some of our candidates who have expressed their interest in being either reappointed or appointed. And it sounds like they're ready to make some appointments.
And I would like to make a motion to appoint Jeff Barnett-Winsby for the Board of Ethics for the term 1/1/2025 that expires on 12/31/2029.
Do you want to do all of them in one?
Okay?
Yeah, we can do all that.
And John Stephanopoulos for the Planning Board. The position is a 7-year position that starts 1/1/2025, expires 12/31/2031. And Judy Moran for Recreation is a position, 5-year position that starts 1/1/25 and expires 12/31/29. And George Pestranson for the Board of Assessment for the 5 years for 1/1/2025 to 12/31/2029.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, that concludes
Okay.
the town clerk's report.
So our next event is a presentation by Delaware Engineering, who've been working very hard and doing excellent work in terms of reviewing our water system and making proposals for repairs. Oh, look at that.
All right, thank you.
It's much better. Just the left and right.
Okay, two things. The slides are up there, but does anybody want a handout? We got the extra paper copies.
I'll
Yep.
always take a handout.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love a handout too. So I can write on, I like to write on them.
So as Leo said, we've been very busy looking at your water system, top to bottom, pretty comprehensive. We evaluated historical records, your current records.
They're all taken.
We visited all the sites. We looked at all your maps, looked at all your drawings, old reports, new reports. Came up with, we have the summary today of what we found, right? Everybody's got a copy that wants it?
Yep.
Oh, you need one? Did we run out?
Did you give me one and I didn't?
I thought you said no to
I thought you
I
said
said no?
You went like this.
You kind of went like that to her when she went to hand it to you.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. It's been a long day. Sorry, okay, thank you very
You
much.
did say no.
So we're going to summarize, there's a big, oh, sorry, you got it? There's a big fat report out there. There's PDF and paper copy, but we're going to summarize it. We're not going to spend 3 hours going over it for you. But, so just quickly, the map there shows you the district and the limits of who's in and who's out. Just kind of rough numbers. You got about 300 customers, and you use about 60,000 gallons of water a day, right? So that's who your water district is. We'll go through the slides, and we'll follow the drop of water, as where you get it, how you treat it, how you distribute it, and then the needs of each one. As we go through it, you'll see your biggest needs are in your water supply, your wells, and the bullets there. Whoop, you just. As you can tell, those were the goals of the project and the recommendations. We want to get you up to speed. We want to get you in compliance with the health department. We want to fix things that need to be fixed, things that aren't working. We want you to have reliable water. All right, sorry. Oh, so 3.9 million, right? You caught that number. We'll get to that later. More on that. So your water supply relies on 4 wells. Two in Washington Court and 2 in the Lavelle well site, right? And you've got pretty significant problems on 3 out of the 4 wells. So that's kind of like the big issue with your system. Your well 5 is out of commission completely right now. That needs to be, there's work that needs to be done to get that back up and for the Department of Health to let you use it again. Wells 4 and 4A, which is what's referred to as Lavelle well field, has additional significant issues. So here's some pictures for those of you who haven't had the privilege of visiting. It's tucked away among some cattails there near the pond, and it's it's got a generator needs to be replaced. It's got a building needs to be replaced. The stuff inside the building doesn't look any better than the stuff outside the building. It's really, it really needs to be redone. There's issues with potential flooding. There's issues with being too close to the lake, and you need to add filtration so you don't get crypto and giardia and other bad things that come with lake water. We evaluated some upgrades, doing a package station versus a custom build, and some needs that are needed just for the wells, like raise the wells so they're not in the floodplain, and new generator and that kind of thing. And our recommendations was to go with a package station and to do the upgrades that are needed for the wells themselves, the well casings. And so that added up to the 8.3 and the 2.3 million there. 0.23, sorry. All right, I'll do the next. So once you've pumped the water, you do very minimal treatment right now. You add chlorine, and then it goes to, in the case of the Washington Court, it goes to the water tank, and Lavelle well field just feeds the system, which ultimately feeds your water tank. But you have one water storage tank, and you rely, obviously you rely on it, and it's, basically the same tank you had from that was installed day 1, and it needs a lot of love and care to get it up to speed again. There's a list of things that don't meet OSHA requirements and don't meet current DOH requirements. It's got old paint, it's chipping away, it's starting to rust, and it's steel tank. The longer you let it sit, the more rust, the more it takes to rehabilitate it. And recoating, rehabilitating steel tanks is actually very expensive. In case it's not like painting, a barn, right? So you can see the numbers there. We evaluated rehabilitating the tank, which includes recoating the inside and outside, and having temporary water while you're doing it, versus building a new tank. Because the obvious answer is, well, if I'm going to spend $1.7 million recoating the tank, what's a new tank cost, right? Well, a new tank costs $3 million. So our recommendation was to rehab what's there, and it'll last you another 40 years plus. The next time you have to paint it, right? We'll go to that. So the water district has served the water distribution system, various pipes to get the water to your houses, and the pipes are various sizes. Some are very small, some are very old. It's kind of a hodgepodge. Your water district kind of grew over time, so that's how you got to historically 2 small pipes in some areas. You got valves that don't work, which is like, for example, you had the water break recently. The guys go to shut off the valve so they can fix the pipe. The valves don't work. So it just becomes a bigger and bigger project to do something that shouldn't have taken so much. So we evaluated what would it take to fix all your problems that we could identify, and that ended up being a pretty big number, $6.21 million. We identified some others like you just have to replace these because it's 1.5 inches feeding a street, and it can't, that's the highest priority. And replacing valves, replacing hydrants, if you add all that up, adds up to about $1 million. There's also the issue with low pressure on Depot Hill Road, and we evaluated what it would take to solve that, which would be a booster pump station that would provide the adequate, or better pressure to that street. And our number for that was a little over $600,000. So based on evaluating that, our recommendations came down to fix the very smallest and oldest pipes and valves and hydrants that you have. That ended up being about $1 million. It'd be nice to do everything, but everything costs a lot of money, so got to make choices. Go to the next one. So again, this is a summary of the recommendations of what's there. And again, there's details that shows you what we didn't make it to the recommendation, and how we ended up with these numbers. It's all the details are there. We can get into any of that. But upgrade the Lavelle Road pump house, upgrade the well pumps, rehabilitate the storage tank, and then some select upgrades, which includes 1,200 feet of mains, valves and hydrants, and some disconnecting any remaining connections that are to abandoned lines. That's a small part, not very expensive, but very important for health.
Wire to requalify well 5? What does that involve?
So it was an existing well, right? And something that's a little not quite clear what happened. Somebody at your previous operators intended to fix it, re-drill it, make it deeper. And when they did that, they did it without following procedures with Department of Health. They took lab results after they did it, and the lab results showed up a series of lead was high, bacteria came in, all not good stuff. Department of Health said you can't just plug it back in and use it. You got to figure out what's wrong before you put this back in service. So well 5's been off for a while now. Did that answer the question? Or?
Yeah, that was that. I just wanted to make sure we all understood that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on the recommendations? I know that was kind of fast, but
I had one.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, rehabilitating the water storage would be the 1.73. You said it would give us 40 years. How much would replacing it give us?
So if you replace, so 40 years means that every 40 years you got to recode what you're going to do now, right?
Okay.
If you do a new tank, depending on whether you do a steel tank or one of those the ceramic interior coated steel tanks that don't have to be painted as often. But if you keep your tank, you can look around, you'll find tanks that are 80, 100 years old out there.
Okay.
So if you keep up with it, the steel will last forever if you don't let it rust, right? So,
40 years is not like it fails. The
Yeah.
40 years is you'll have to do something again.
Right, so if we bought new in 40 years, we'd have to do something.
again, yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, it's not like if you spent the $4 million that you'll never ever have to spend money on.
Right, or it doesn't buy you more time.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you buy your house, you know you're going to have to put a new roof on every
20
X
years.
years, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And when you do the rehab, the 1.7, you'll have, for all intents and purposes, a brand
A
new
new
tank.
one, right.
Blasted down to bare metal and all that stuff.
And that cost includes putting up the temporary?
Right. Now,
Okay.
obviously, the temporary tank's not going to be the same size as the permanent tank.
Right.
It'll be a smaller one, but it'll allow you to operate your system and keep the pressure while you're doing it.
Okay.
Excellent.
So we got some next steps to discuss, and Mary Beth's going to lead the charge on that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, you want
Sorry, I skipped.
money or you want me to make money?
That's the big question everybody's gonna ask.
Talk about
How
money.
much
Yeah.
is this gonna cost and how do we
We
pay
both
for
talk
it?
about money.
Yeah, right. So the next biggest thing, right? How to pay for this. If you had no outside help, no grants, the burden on the users would be an annual burden would somewhere be $250,000 a year on top of your current budget, right? So that's what the column 1 is. Column 2 is it's not a complete, wish dream. It's what the grants that are readily available, based on our experience, you have a good chance of getting, which is the WIA grant, Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. So that's 60%, and then the rest is financed. But then you have an additional $400,000 that from your internal grant system for the affordable housing that could be used for that.
Out of the trust fund, in other words.
Yeah.
We have that in our trust fund,
Yeah.
right?
So that's your own good accounting that you created that fund and you have a way to use it. So that would generate the impact that once you subtracted those grants would be $91,000 a year. That would have to be divided up into the existing users. And the best case scenario that we can see for you right now would be a combination of, there's one more grant, which is the bill grant, bipartisan infrastructure law. And next year is the last opportunity to apply for that grant, which of course you'd want to apply, but it's a very competitive grant process and all that. So if you get the bill grant, you get the WIA grant, you use your $400,000, then the impact to your users would be $40,000 a year. So that's the best scenario that we can project. Obviously you can't make decisions on scenario 3, but.
And what do we need to have to apply for the bill grant?
It's a good question.
That's the next thing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now I'll hand it off.
If you're gonna talk, you gotta come up to the microphone.
I will do that. And I think you guys all know me, but I'm Mary Beth Bianconi. I have the pleasure of working with Robert and Kelsey. So the next steps, right? What do you have to do to apply for these grants? One of the things that we should emphasize, and Robert did just say this, is the bill grant program expires in 2025. Congress could say we're going to do this again. It seems unlikely. So we are telling folks this is the time to kind of access that money. It is, as Robert said, is extremely competitive. It's a points-driven system. So depending, Robert just ran through sort of all of the concerns with the water system. They are pretty significant concerns. And that's the way the point system works, is it evaluates, from a public health perspective, how important or how significant are the improvements that need to be made. So inadequate source capacity or source capacity that is influenced by flooding or, is inadequate in some way gives you a lot of points. And that's something that you have with the Lavelle Road wells, as Robert outlined. Storage is another critical factor. Believe it or not, water lines, unfortunately, even though they're really critical and you just had a water emergency, they're not super sexy and you don't get a lot of competitive points for those, but you do have a number of components of this project that are very compelling. So the concept here would be to get you into the mill to get a grant application. Actually, it's a number of grant applications for this summer. So the grant timeline is this summer. I'm just gonna grab my cheat sheet so I can look at, because Kelsey was kind enough to put together a nice schedule. So what do we have to do? So you have a preliminary engineering report. As Robert said, it's this sort of doorstop that runs through all of these details. It's written in the format that the state accepts for these grants. You'll want to say, yeah, this is our report. This is a statement of facts. Then we have to move forward kind of quickly. I think later tonight you're going to talk about the Lavelle Road well and your ARPA funds. That's kind of a piece of this. For the larger project, that bigger, almost $3 million project, we have to complete seeker. So this is subject to state environmental review. We have to go to the State Office of Historic Preservation and get them to sign off on this. Now, the good news is these are basically all replacements in kind or rehabilitation of existing things. We're not reinventing the wheel. That eases the process through the environmental review and the cultural resources. We need to do something called a 202B process. So town law, section 202B, is a process where we take our big, fat, very technical PER and we skinny it down into something called a map plan and report, which would be like if you've done district extensions, it's the same concept. But what it does is it says, what are the needs, what's being built, how much money does it cost, and importantly, who is paying for it and how much money do they pay? So that is actually sort of the rate setting. Like that's when we get to, and Joe and Susie at 123 Main Street are paying X dollars. So we have to go through that process. We have to create that report, which will outline all of that. We submit that report to the board accepts that report and schedules a public hearing. And this is the opportunity for the public to come and get information and understand the project, its necessity, the unfortunate fact that in New York State, there is no one to pay for your water service except you, unless you get grants. So we go through that process, that 202B process. That's what then allows, so we get to the conclusion of that process, it's what then allows the town board to adopt a bond resolution. And the bond resolution, even though we had that, can you go back to our funding times? Great. So we have all of these, here's what you would pay. You see that loan amount, 3.9, and then 1.4, and 620. Well, the way that this process works is you're adopting a bond resolution, but you may, in a perfect world, be getting grants from the state. You may be borrowing money from the state at a very good interest rate. But what they want to know is they want to know you're serious about moving forward with your project. That if they commit these funds, because remember, the whole state is competing for all of this money. Every community. We've got dozens of them, right? So they want to know that you're serious. And one of the ways that they know you're serious is that you've kind of put your money where your mouth is and you've adopted that bond resolution. Doesn't mean you're going to spend all of this money and actually doesn't commit you to do the project. But it does say to the state, we are ready if all things are in our favor, we are ready to move forward. So we would adopt that bond resolution. We're hoping to do that in the winter time, ideally February, March, because in order to be qualified for these grants, you have to have adopted your bond resolution and gotten through the legal processes that follow it prior to making an application. So this year, the applications for the grants are due in May. So it's the bill, it's the WIA, and the SRF that would be the underlying, SRF is State Revolving Fund, would be the underlying loan program that would go with this. Those are all due in May. I know that right now, here we sit in December, it's not even Christmas, we're talking about Christmas tree lighting, and now we're talking about May. It is very soon, it is tomorrow. And there are a lot of regimented timelines. You have to do this and then sit on your hands for 30 days and then do the next thing. So keeping this process moving, we can't emphasize it enough. We have seen people submit incomplete applications in those May timelines and get turned down because they submitted an incomplete application. So in a perfect world, we'd like to see you move through this so that you have a complete and competitive application by that May timeline. And that is really what we have to do to get to secure the funding. Now, we get to May, we all take a giant deep breath. We've now submitted our applications. Unfortunately, we don't learn about whether we get this money for quite some time. It's usually this time, it's usually in the winter time. Last couple years, the WIA grants have been announced at odd times. Sometimes they've been announced as early as October, sometimes as late as the following March. Makes it a little difficult to plan things. The bill funding, the good news about that is that runs on the federal fiscal year, which starts on October 1st of every year. So you will know on October 1st if you got that money or not. From May to October, you will know. That's one of the reasons why these timelines are so tight. So that is kind of what the next steps are. Then obviously, we roll through a whole process after that of design and regulatory approvals and bidding and all that kind of stuff, which will take you out. Just so you guys know, if we act today, like now, if we start now, you're not looking at bidding this thing until the winter of 2020, until like December of 2026. That's a reasonable time frame. So just so everybody knows, the longer we kind of go on, the more time goes out. The other thing I will add, and then I'll answer questions or we can move on, is I track the cost of commodities for our water and sewer projects because it's so incredibly important to our communities. And I think we've all experienced inflation, right? We've all seen that. I use metrics that come out from our major construction companies and then all of our regional metrics. Right now, today, no commodity that we use in our work is as inexpensive as it was in 2019. In fact, the average is they're 40% more expensive. So from 2019 to today, the things we use in doing our work, steel, concrete, a lot of our stuff is made of high density polyethylene, so plastics, 40%. So the cost of delay is really excessive. I mean, that's kind of the lesson, right? The one commodity that has stabilized and is back to its pre-pandemic value is lumber. We don't use lumber in these projects. It's kind of obvious. You just saw all the things Robert talked about, right? So one of the things that we try to emphasize to folks is, at the end of the day, we can have all of the internet and the AI and all of these things. Your drinking water is always going to come from the ground. It is always going to be pulled out of the ground by a pump. There's just no way around that. It is always going to be treated somehow, put in a tank, and distributed to you through a pipe. This is one of the best investments you can make in your community. There's nobody else to pay the bill, unfortunately, and things just get more and more expensive. And the reality is, the cost of delay is you get that same exact pipe if you do this project in 2026 than if you do it in 2029, but in 2029 it's going to cost you 40% more than it did in 2026. That's sort of the sad fact, but the pipe will be the same. The people who have to pay the bill will probably be the same. So, we don't want to scare anybody, but the reality here is you have a situation of aging infrastructure that frankly has needed some investment. The cost of not investing is high and getting higher. So we would encourage you to move forward at this point. I know later on in your meeting you're going to talk about committing your ARPA funds to get started on the well house, which is really critically important, and I think that's a really good first step.
Great.
Does anybody have questions?
No.
Sure.
Your fees,
They're all baked into these prices, yep. Yep, and we are a tiny little fraction. Most of this is, the construction cost. But we're sort of a necessary evil. The state won't let you go far without some nice person like Robert saying, yes, this is all in conformance with law. So, great, thank you.
Thank you.
The next thing for the board, at the next session, we said we ultimately need to, may I quickly? We just, the board needs to engage Delaware to create the map plan and report and to do seeker. So that will be a new contract, and Delaware will get us a quote on that this week. So we hope to have that for you so we can enter into a resolution at your next meeting. Right.
Exactly.
Accepting the report.
Accepting the report? Well, there's generally no formal resolution to accept the report. It would be the map plan and report, which is based off the PR. And I'll tell the people, if anybody's watching, the presentation that Delaware gave tonight will be put online on at AmeniaNY.gov, as well as the complete preliminary engineering report will be there as well.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, you're all free, just so you know. You can leave if you want, that's all. So we received really late this afternoon the revisions that our planners, AKRF, had made to the cannabis law. There's been a lot of back and forth. I think we're pretty close to being done with this, but no one had a chance to read it. Is that correct? Did anyone have a chance to read the whole thing?
I did, and I think it looks fine, except I'm just going to say that I did get an email from a resident who's concerned about the fact that the on-site is not mentioned in the law, even though it is, according to New York State law. He did send some language that he thought we could just add a little paragraph at the end of I sent it to Ian. Did you get that, Ian?
I have your email. I have not had a chance to review that email yet, okay. but I did get your email.
But it's just a really short thing saying that, that they will, on-site farms sales will be permitted following New York State regulations.
Micro business.
Right.
It's micro business law.
And he would just like to see that in the law.
It's probably good to
It's a very short thing, and I'll send it to you.
But it also should probably go to AKRF.
No, I will send it to them.
So, I mean,
Can we vote on it in 2
fairly
weeks?
comfortable.
and be done
Yes,
with
in
it?
2 weeks
All
we
right,
should vote.
excellent. Finally. 12 months it took. Then we still got to have public hearing.
Yeah, so there's two things that should happen. There's going to be a local law we have to opt in, correct? Because we initially opted out.
Yep.
So we're going to have to repeal and then opt back in. That's number one. And number two, then we'll do a resolution introducing that local law plus this local law once we have a final draft.
So now that we got the draft done, we
Yep.
opt back in first.
But they'll go at the same time. We'll do them at the
Okay.
same time. We'll do them this way, it'll expedite it. But
Okay.
this way, when we actually pass the local law opting in, you will have your regulations for it in place.
great.
So do we have to have a public hearing?
Yeah, any local law, we'll introduce it.
Like we
Yep.
had tonight,
Correct.
just informal at the beginning of the meeting?
Correct. So we'll do a resolution introducing, setting a public hearing, we have a public hearing, and
So
thereafter.
2-3 months, we could finally be done with this.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Is that it on that subject?
I'm good.
Okay. We discussed getting input from, we discussed getting input from the community about the potential new town seal. I put together language, which again, people didn't get until the end of the day today, so I it would be nice to get started right away, but we can delay it. But it had sort of a schedule and a submission, like what we're asking people to send in, and what our intent is with the town seal. But basically, the idea is that we would like people in the community to give us their ideas for the town seal, for what, historical figures or local spots or buildings are most important to them, and just that we're looking for a simpler image than what we have now, because it's very hard to read on stationery or on a sign, because it's just too complicated to understand if you're going 30 miles an hour, let alone 60. And we're just asking people to draw or describe the idea for the seal, and then that would come back to the board, and we need to have a graphic designer in place so that we can task them with using that as a sort of starting point for what they actually produce. And again, I think we could do this in about a month, but we don't have, certainly not a resolution on this, so unless this can be done by motion, we'll have to do it at the next meeting. Does that make sense to people?
How are you going to advertise it out, get it out to the
Oh,
community?
it says that we would post it on our website, Channel 22, the bulletin board, the community Facebook page, and on a sign in front of the building on Route 22. And then we post it, we'll just push all the dates ahead 2 weeks, which would mean that we would get these back the third week in January, and then we would decide the meeting after that. And that, I guess each of us would get the submissions, each of the town board members would get the submissions individually, just so we're prepared to discuss it at the meeting we discuss it at.
Okay.
And I don't know whether we need a prize either, so it'd be good to get input from you all on that, other than just bragging
I
rights.
was just going to say bragging
I
rights.
I think just getting recognition
Okay.
for the contribution.
Maybe a plaque.
Yeah, plaque.
Oh, okay, plaque. We know that Dawn Marie can produce those in a drop of a hat. Okay.
So this is just to get submissions or ideas, and then what will be posted on the 9th?
Oh, the posting on the 9th was just posting what we're asking them to
ideas.
send us.
Oh.
No, the 9th is...
So submissions are due by the 9th? Is that?
No, I'm sorry. The 9th of December, this was...
Of January.
Of January, I'm sorry.
Deadline
No,
of-
I'm sorry. I was actually talking about this coming Monday, in terms of just putting it up.
Right, and then the
And then it would
deadline
take,
be-
then we allowed a month, basically,
Yeah.
for people to
The
submit.
deadline be the 9th for
So-
submissions?
Right.
Yes.
So basically, you're on the 9th of December, you're asking people for their contributions, and then the deadline being January 9th.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll have to then move all that ahead if we're going to vote on this.
Between the next two meetings, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Next meeting, okay. Thank you. And then the other thing that I wanted to make note of is that we have Bridget, the woman who is working in the building department now, scanning documents so that, at some point in the future, we'll be able to actually search documents that belong to the building department. We'd like to do the same thing for planning and zoning. And right now, we're able to do 8.5 by 11 sheets, but I think for building and zoning and for planning and zoning and for the building department, we need to be able to scan large drawings, because that's the hardest thing to keep track of and actually retrieve, which I've been having some frustrations with of late. So anyway, but to do that, we need a large format printer. There are a couple of options given to you. There's a Canon, which also prints, but we really don't need printing. And then there was a Context one that's somewhat less expensive that just scans. And Bridget reviewed these two and actually thought that the Context one was probably better.
Who did?
I'm sorry, Bridget,
Oh, okay.
since she's the one who's actually been doing the scanning.
Is she who picked these?
I'm sorry?
Who picked these?
Nancy actually pulled these out, and Bridget Bridget then
Okay,
went through them.
because I can tell you these are half the price of what the ones Tom and I were looking at back. It was around 6 to 8, I believe, thousand.
I think it's just because the prices dropped?
No, it was a much bigger machine, so
Oh,
I'd
it was a
like.
bigger machine,
And
okay.
I believe this form of that one is in the building department, and I could probably find it. I'd be
Okay.
curious just to see what the difference is in what they do.
Right.
Because it is about half the cost.
Okay, and because the printable width here is 36 inches, you can print as long as you want, apparently. But I mean, that basically means that 36 by 48 would be the standard drawing size that you can print, but maybe we do need things bigger than that on some projects.
This one, you can lay the whole thing out flat on. So these look like they are.
That they
you can
roll
do
through, I
longer-
think that's,
yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
they do roll.
Yeah, it scans it, pulls it through and scans it.
Right. Huh?
They have a feeder rather
Right.
than a,
Rather than a
flat,
plate.
Yeah.
But if you can pull that would be amazing, because it would make sense to see what the capabilities are of the machines that you looked at with Tom.
Yes, because Victoria had approved that in their budget to order, and then we didn't order it, so I'd like to compare.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. Any thoughts on that?
Regardless,
no, we need-
regardless, I think we need one.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think we really have to, because, we're trying to drag Amenia into the 21st century, or at least the 20th century, and I think this is something that will really make the records in the town much more accessible to people.
Dawn, does it have to be specific to work with Laserfiche?
I
You already-
involved myself today when I
She
saw the
did.
agenda.
Perfect, okay.
So I sent an email to Laserfiche, and I have forwarded their response to the supervisor and Nancy and
Okay.
them.
Okay, so if you can get us that information, Nicole, that would be
Sure.
great. And I'm sure Charlie will want to look at that since he likes machinery. And that's it for discussion, so I think we move on to resolutions. The first one is about creating a new local law with a procedure for creating a town board or committee. And Ian, we actually had a comment on that during the public comment about the fact that it's 2 years with no stagger is, well, Judy found problematic. I found that a little problematic too. And also, I guess she said it's possible to remove members without cause, which she thought was not the way we've been doing it of late. So I guess my thought is, should we move ahead with this local law as drafted and then just amend it in the future if we need to do that?
That's a decision for the board. You've heard the public comment. The board would have to make that decision whether or not they want to accommodate the comments that were made, or if they're satisfied with the law as written, they could pass it now.
Okay.
If they're not, then I would withdraw the resolution.
Okay, well, the issue is that we we have a number of people who want to be on this committee and are very hot to trot, not that they couldn't meet at a coffee shop, I guess, but I guess it depends on how significant those, there's variations are, because yes? did you were gonna say
It sounds like it's something that we can just amend later on, right?
Well, my sense was that if we vote now, we can move ahead with
Yeah.
forming the committee, and if we don't vote now, we can't form the committee.
right.
So my feeling is that we should probably go ahead with these rules, and if we have a problem with them in the future, we can just amend it at that point.
Sounds good to me.
So then
And
that would,
actually, we could amend them after, after we appoint, we create the committee, and then the committee meets, and they can come back and make recommendations for us to amend the law. We could do it at that time, correct?
right, although it's going to be for all committees, so we should just make sure that we're
Yeah,
not just listening to the
The
one.
board would initiate it, and it would be another local law amending the current local law as passed, that's all.
Because none of the committees have 2-year terms.
No, I know, they're all longer and they all are staggered, so, and it would also be sort of lovely if we can get all the committees to be on the same rules, because some of them have no terms at all, which is kind of confusing for people.
So how
who
does
are-
that impact our current, I keep track of all the times, so I need to just have a better understanding.
sorry, you keep
I
track
keep
of
track of everybody's, when they're appointed, who
Right.
has expirations, who doesn't. So can you just explain, how does this affect, like, our emergency response? How does this affect our enhancements? How does this affect like all the other committees? Will it mean that in January, we're looking to appoint everybody at 2 years and everybody's on at once and off at once? I guess that's
It would
where
only
there's
be
some
the
confusion, because that's what none of us were understanding during
No,
the
the law
public
doesn't
hearing.
apply to any that currently exists.
So this only
So-
applies to the
New
Economic
committees.
Development
Hold on one
Committee?
second.
No, for new committees, right?
Hold on
For
one
creating a
second.
new committee.
Well, because now this is talking about boards, not committees. So these were questions we had.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Winner's here, I can't turn pages.
So full.
All right. All right, so this doesn't, well, this law, there is a provision in the law about inapplicability of the chapter, and it would not apply to already established, other committees that were established by local laws or ordinances, including but not limited to planning boards, zoning boards, the CAC, and the ethics board. So it would not apply to those. So this would be applying to citizens' committees that are going to be created, similar to the one that the board intends to create. That's what it would apply to going forward.
But I guess the confusion, just to kind of further that more, is like the rec commission, which is not listed, but the rec commission is within our code.
Correct,
So-
also by code.
Great, so they're set by the code and they have a term. If you go back into it, when we're looking at our CAC Emergency Response Enhancement, Amenia Housing Board, Water Committee, Wastewater Committee, Industrial and Commercial Incentive, and our Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. So that's where that just because January is coming up, so if we're doing this, does this apply to them? Because they're all annually.
We could specifically amend this to add and state that it doesn't apply to any existing committees.
But why do we have to do this at all just for this new committee?
Well, because technically we need a law on the books for it. So a lot of these committees existed forever here. And so we had passed committee guidelines, but when I did the research to form this particular committee,
This was never done.
this was never done.
Okay.
I mean, I would normally say that I thought we should kind of work out these kinks, but it means delaying the start of this committee. So Rosanna, I guess the question is, you know, the committee could start unofficially discussing things before it's actually a committee, but my sense is that it's probably worth passing this local law and then amending it thereafter, because it wouldn't, what?
I'm just concerned, what is the concern, if you have it, say, if it's a 2-year term on a committee.
Right.
And it's within the town board discretion to appoint, reappoint, is the concern, what's the concern with the staggering, that you wouldn't have, you'd have attrition, or, like, what's the concern?
No, the reason I think for the staggering is so there's continuity on the committee, and also,
How does the 2-year term prevent that, though? If you have a 2-year term, it's on this board to reappoint. The only way you wouldn't have it is if somebody quit. And if somebody quit, you're going to have that issue no matter what you do. There's no way to get around that. So if people want to continue on the committee, then it would be up to this board or
I
any
think
future
Leo
board.
also said that having it cohesive with the other ones that are 5 to 7. They're 5 years, right?
Through
Yeah.
5 or 7, depending on the number of persons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, Ian, is like, are we, I mean, my sense is that it would make, you know, that it would be better for us to follow the other committees, or if not that, to
I can do
this
that.
retroactive.
I could do that. I would have to re-edit it that way, but this is what we had drafted and submitted.
Okay, so
Well, can it
here's a
be-
question. Should we
Can it be done for the
ask
next
Ian to
meeting?
redo it for the next meeting in 2 weeks?
I can do
And
that.
there could be a first meeting of the committee
For January.
before it's,
So my question is, if you do this,
Because we'd be changing the terms. So the terms on other committees are what, 5 years, you're saying?
5 or
Yeah.
7.
So we would set this at 5-year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you initially appoint, you appoint, you know, like 1, 3, and 5, or
Right,
whatever it is,
exactly.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could, I could edit this to add that provision and then have it reintroduce it, yeah.
Okay.
We could do that.
I'm going to say this, from being on the committees all those years, the committees don't pay attention to this anyway, so. I think we're
So-
overanalyzing it.
Well,
I mean, that's what I think. I think we're overanalyzing it.
It's not
These
really
people
for-
volunteered to help
so
the
we
town.
can't- we
and
can't
They did their
just-
thing.
We
yeah, but
can't
that's
just-
not the way any of the other committees are set up. So, I mean, in other words, all the other committees are set up the same way. It seems
Yeah.
sort of weird to me that, to like, change the rules at this point.
But where,
I wish,
I'm not understanding.
I
where we're
wish that
changing
comment was
rules.
made earlier when I circulated a draft, because I would have made it earlier. But if that's the case, and that's what the board wants, then we should absolutely not vote on this now, and I will redraft it.
Explain to me where we're changing the rules.
So,
Two-year terms
Where are we
are
changing it?
changed to the rules for every other
have to
committee.
change the terms.
Which is a 5-year
60.
term, and they're staggered, so there's continuity in
Yes,
the
please.
committee.
But doesn't recreation have 7 years?
No, they
That
used to
wouldn't-
have
it wouldn't apply to
7. The reason
recognition.
why it changed to 5 is because we changed the number of members on that because of the low enrollment. We couldn't fill it. So we used to have 7 for the longest time. It was 5, then we went up to 7 because a lot of folks were interested, and they felt that they had to be on the committee because they can't just attend a meeting and participate. You have to be on the committee. So then they went from 5 to 7, then many years with 7, and then it slowly started the lack of interest. So when they found that it was so hard, we were advertising, they said, fine, let's just change the number so I don't have to keep advertising for rec. So we changed the number of persons on that
And
committee.
the only committee or board now that has 7 is planning, right?
Planning.
That's the only one that has 7, and they have 7-year
So
terms.
let me
And
ask this
then-
question. If we extend the
Doesn't
term
apply
to
to
5
these.
years, are these people going to
no,
quit?
why can't we just ask?
Maybe they're only signing up for 2 years.
Well, you can always quit, but the point is that
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important to have
Okay.
continuity on the board, so you're not like
No, I
potentially
understand that.
switching everyone.
But if we keep it at 2 years, everybody's, that he's trying to point out that you can
Just reappoint.
continue to appoint, or at that point, you could make the choice not to reappoint. So say 1 year you get a bunch of candidates, you're going to have to pick somebody anyway. Is his, he's
Well,
trying
The
to.
board has full control of who's on that board. So say January 1, or at our reorg, we appoint and we assign, we appoint however many people we want on a committee, any committee, right? We can also, the board also chooses how many. Do we want 3, 5, 7, whatever you want. You could, once you appoint them, they're on for a 2-year term. At the end of that 2 years, continuity would remain because you would reappoint if that's something that meant something to you. If people are quitting, there's nothing you're going to do to stop people, or lack of interest. Lack of interest is, and I think is what's causing the attrition, which is what's causing the lack of continuity. But if you have people who are interested, and it's the same crew that are interested, they can be reappointed year over year.
But you
Or
have to, you
over
have
2
to
years.
reappoint the whole board every 2 years.
If
Yes,
they all apply.
if they all
If they
hang
all-
around, yeah.
Where does it say the 2 years in here?
6E, page 3.
Oh, 6E, okay.
The
I
third
think we're
physical
overthinking
page.
it.
Can we just change the 2 to a 5? And call it a day? Ian?
Well, if we move, what I'm concerned about is if we move it to 5 years, then people are going to say, I don't want to commit for 5 years.
All our committees are 5 years.
I know, but
I
this
don't
is a
think-
little different.
Why is, I don't see how this is different. It's a committee. I mean,
Could we ask somebody who applied?
what?
Could we ask somebody who applied how they feel?
Where is it?
Ken?
My
Paul's
suggestion would
Yes.
be that since the board is, it seems to be a concern of the board,
Is that what she said?
Who we're talking about.
I wouldn't feel comfortable passing the local law at this point because the board seems to have a fairly strong concern about it. So I think that what we should do is really just address it and pass the law that you want.
For the next meeting.
Yeah, have it ready for the next meeting.
We need to have another public
All
hearing.
right, so if we,
You have to
if
set
we
it down,
do
yeah,
the
'cause you should
resolution
close
of the
this
next
one.
meeting, can we do the resolution of the next meeting and
No.
create the committee
I don't
at
see
the
why we
same
can't.
meeting?
I don't see why.
No, you would have to, we close this public hearing.
We closed it, we have to have a new public hearing. So
So
next one, he's
I'd
just
have to lay it on the desk,
introducing
and any significant change to local law would still have to be laid on the desk. It still has to be before you for 7 days exclusive of Sunday.
We couldn't just cross out the 2 and make it 5?
We've done it on other resolutions.
That is true, we have made changes on other resolutions.
Just make the resolution changing the 2 to a 5.
I don't like amending on the fly a local law.
No, okay, so the resolution, so let's ask the next question, what they're trying to ask you. So you have to make a resolution for our next meeting to appoint the X number of persons to this committee.
If this is passed tonight, you can create the committee at the next meeting.
Great. During that resolution,
Can we put the terms on there?
Okay, so why don't we,
To- to
why
see
don't
what
we
I'm trying to
why don't we
ask.
pass the law the way it is tonight? And then when we pass when we form the committee, we do whatever we need to do.
they're asking.
We come back, and if you guys can come back, and if there has to be amendments made to it, we'll
I
make
mean,
it.
essentially, if you want them to serve a 5-year committee, you just reappoint, and then,
No.
if you reappoint,
wouldn't make a
you would have them serve
The
either
answer is
2 or
no.
4 or,
From Damien.
It wouldn't make a difference?
No, he's fine with the 2-year.
Okay.
no, Damien just said.
Thank you, Damien.
Okay,
So
so,
move it.
I,
I say
this
we
is
go
just
ahead and pass the
frustrating. Are
resolution.
you saying, Ian, that if we put this off for 2 weeks, we can't actually
Create
form
and-
that committee after we approve the law?
Well,
In the same
no, no, if we're gonna re-edit certain, like, significant provisions of this, like the term, numbers, other things in here that we're talking about, I think that the best course is we've closed the public hearing, so we would have to relay that, we'd have to reintroduce it, and have a public hearing on the amended law.
No.
Okay, let's just, I mean, I think we should just pass it and deal
I'm
with
fine,
it
I'm
later.
fine either way. I don't, yeah.
That would be my
It'll
recommendation.
have no effect. It'll
Oh,
have,
So I'll read the
117.
resolution.
Ken,
Resolution number 117.
I have
Ken-
one question.
Yes,
ahead,
Ken.
go up.
Yes. Does this allow provisions if you need to create an ad hoc committee? And by ad hoc, it is created for one specific task, and when it completes that task, it's no longer,
that's what this is doing.
so this resolution would allow, and I'm just thinking for the future, you don't want to go through all of this just to,
This creates the baseline, it's exactly what it's doing.
okay.
Exactly what it's
So
doing.
you can, without creating any revised language, create an ad hoc committee.
Correct, and
Okay.
and what the law does, it actually provides flexibility for the board as to specificity as to what that is, its membership, how much, how little, like, there is, it's designed to have the flexibility to give the board the most power when creating the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So
All
what-
right, so I should probably read this.
What resolution number?
117.
Resolution 117 of 2024, adopting local law X. Do we actually know what local law? We don't have a number
It'll-
for the local law.
No,
You don't need it.
you don't
Okay.
need it.
Okay, adopting local law number X of the year 2024, creating a new chapter X entitled Advisory Boards, whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, including proposed local law number X of 2024, entitled Local Law number X of the year 2024, creating a new chapter X entitled Advisory Boards, and whereas the public hearing was duly advertised in the Millerton News, the official newspaper of the town, and whereas the public hearing was held on December 5th, 2024, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof, and whereas the town board determined that the proposed local law was not subject to environmental review, and whereas the town board of the town of Amenia, after due deliberation, finds that it is in the best interest of the town to adopt said local law, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Amenia hereby adopts local law number X of 2024, entitled Local Law Number X of the year 2024, creating a new chapter X entitled Advisory Boards, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part thereof. I'd make that motion.
I second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, one second. All right. The next bond resolution is authorizing the construction of the new highway garage and salt storage shed and authorizing the issuance of bonds to pay the cost. We had approved this at a previous meeting, but it wasn't advertised. It wasn't advertised soon enough, so we're just basically reapproving this, and then it'll be put into the Millerton News again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So this doesn't have a resolution number because it already has a resolution number, right?
It's been
No,
118.
no, it'll be a new resolution.
Oh.
Resolution number 18.
It's just in a different format, a
Turn
different
turn the
attorney
page.
prepared it.
Leo, turn the page.
Oh,
That's what we
There you
read
go.
last time. Everything
think that's
exactly
where
is
you
the
start.
same.
okay.
Can't see it from
So
here.
resolution authorizing the construction of a
Yeah.
new, so
Thanks, Paul.
do
Yes.
we need to read all this even though we've already approved it?
Yes, I would reread the resolution. It's a new resolution, and there's a provision in this resolution that actually rescinds the prior resolution. So I would,
Wow, okay. Let's see. Would someone else like to take this while I get a glass of water? You can go right ahead.
All right.
And I'll be
Bond
right back.
resolution dated December 5th, 2024. Resolution authorizing the construction of new highway garage and salt storage shed at a maximum estimated cost of $6,333,449 in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, and authorizing the issuance of $6,333,449 bonds of said town to pay the cost thereof. Whereas the capital project hereinafter described has been determined to be an unlisted action pursuant of the regulation of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which, as proposed, the town board has determined will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact. And whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing of such capital project now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution hereby rescinds resolution number 106 of 2024, adopted by the town board on October 17, 2024, and be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the town board of the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the construction of a new highway garage and said salt shed on a town-owned parcel of land on the east side of Route 22 between South Simpatch Road and Tower Hill Road, in and for the town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York, including original furnishings, machinery, equipment, apparatus, appurtenances, site improvements, site water supply, septic system, and storm water drainage improvements, and other incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $6,333,449. The plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by the issuance of a $6,333,449 bonds of said town, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Section 3, it is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid class of objects or purposes is 30 years pursuant to subdivision 11A of paragraph section 11 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the bonds herein authorized will exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of said town of Amenia, Dutchess County, New York are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal of and interest in such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in each year, in such year. There shall annually be levied on all the taxable real property of said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same become due and payable. Section 5. Subject to the provisions of the local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 6. All other matters except as provided herein relating to such bonds, including determining whether to issue such bonds having substantially level or declining annual debt service, and all the matters related thereto, prescribing whether manual or facsimile signature shall appear on said bonds, prescribing the method for the recording of ownership of said bonds, appointing the fiscal agent or agents for said bonds, providing for the printable and delivery of said bonds, and if said bonds are to be executed in the name of the town by facsimile signature of the supervisor, providing for the manual countersignature of a fiscal agent or of a designated official of the town. The date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, place or places of payment, and also including the consolidation with other issues, shall be determined by the supervisor. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in Section 52 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals in addition to those required by Section 52 of the local finance law as the supervisor shall determine. Section 7, the resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purpose of Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or are reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. Section 8, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provision of law which should be complied with at the date of publication, this resolution, are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 9, upon this resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in summary form in the official newspaper of said town for such purpose, together with a notice of the town clerk and substantially the form provided in Section 81 of the local finance law. Section 10, this resolution is adopted subject to permissive resolution.
As a referendum.
Referendum. You have
Sounds like a
other
book.
pages too?
Nope, that's
No,
it, you're
that's
good.
it.
And
Need a
Who's
second.
moving that?
make that motion?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Paul? Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole, do you want to take this one?
Number
119?
119?
119.
Approving proposal for engineering services in connection with Town of Amenia Water District Number 1 improvements. Whereas the Town Board of Town of Amenia, by resolution number 119 of 2024,
Should be 86.
or do we, is it
No,
number,
eight-
it is
80
number 86?
Yes.
Okay. Of
Yes.
2024, adopted by the Town Board of,
Oh, right.
on July 18, 2024, okay. Approved a professional service agreement with Delaware Engineering DPC for the preparation of a preliminary engineering report for the Town of Amenia Water District Number 1, and whereas Delaware Engineering DPC has prepared the PER and has recommended various improvements to the Town of Amenia Water District Number 1, with one of the improvements consisting of the replacement of the Lavelle Road Pump House, and whereas Delaware Engineering DPC has submitted a proposal to the Town Board to prepare engineering plans and secure regulatory approvals for the construction and replacement of the Lavelle Road Pump House, and whereas the Town Board would like to retain the services of Delaware Engineering DPC to prepare engineering plans and secure regulatory approvals for the construction and replacement of the Lavelle Road Pump House at the cost of $68,277.88. And in accordance with their professional services agreement, a copy of which is annexed here too, and whereas this is a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and therefore not subject to review under SECRA, and whereas the professional engineering services to be prepared by Delaware Engineering DPC to the town constitute professional services which are exempt from the bidding requirements under General Municipal Law 103 and the Town of Amenia's procurement policy. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Number 1, the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia has determined that this is a Type 2 action under SECRA and therefore not subject to review under SECRA. 3, the Town Board determines that the professional engineering services to be provided by Delaware Engineering DPC to the town constitute professional services which are exempt from the bidding requirements under General Municipal Law 103 and the Town of Amenia's procurement policy. 4, the town board hereby approves the professional services agreement from Delaware Engineering DPC dated November 26, 2024 on behalf of the Town of Amenia Water District Number 1, a copy of which is annexed here too. 5, the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to execute the annexed professional services agreement from Delaware Engineering DPC after review by the attorney to the town. 6, the town board hereby authorizes the payment for said engineering services in the amount of $68,277.88 from the
Water Transmission Distribution CE Engineering Budget Line Number 0834004.06.163.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Okay.
So here on the first page here, I'm only seeing that listed in this is LaBelle Road Pump House. But we're doing so much more than that. Why is that?
Because this is the, well, it's because it's the most critical part.
So this is
And
only
because
gonna-
we can use, and the ARPA funds, we're trying to have a specific project that we can afford to do right away.
So that's only, this resolution here is only addressing,
Oh, yes, please help.
Oh, you're still here, good.
because when I look further back,
Hi.
Thank you.
So the, when we were contacted and we learned that you had about $70,000 of ARPA funds that you could dedicate towards advancing the project, there were 2 options. One was take the whole $3 million project and say we're going to advance $70,000 towards the engineering, but it's only going to get you a little bit, right? Because when you look at the engineering cost for that, it's more than that. Or when you look at the LaValle Road Pump House, the engineering cost is about $70,000. So if you invest that $70,000 in that, you will get a DOH
so
approval.
it'll be more cost later on for the other, because when I look further back in like part 1, engineers' responsibilities, it says upgrade the LaBelle Pump House, rehabilitation of the water storage tank. That's where I'm confused.
You mean because the way the resolution is written?
It's in the back of the, it's engineers' responsibilities, part 1.
The resolution also indicates that this would be subject to attorney review because this has not been fully reviewed yet. So this will be subject to attorney review. Those are the options. Those are the items that would be struck from it, and it would be limited to the purpose of the resolution.
Right. So the goal here was we can get you DOH approved plans for that well house with that $70,000.
Right. And actually, Paul, that just says the recommended improvements is delineated in the PER, include those things. It
I
doesn't
was
say
just
that's
con-
what
I was just confused because, you know, they presented this presentation tonight.
Right.
And you listed off all these things that you were going to do, and then I see this resolution, it's only one thing.
That's right. And again, the idea was you have 2 choices. You could invest $70,000 towards, let's say, a $200,000 engineering project to do the $3 million worth of work, but you're only going to get a little bit of stuff, and you're not going to have a DOH approval. There's going to be nothing you can put out to bid. There's going to be, or you can take the $70,000 and actually get approved plans and be ready to go out to bid when you have the money. So
Thank you.
we talked to Charlie and Leo about this and said, which approach do you want to do? We recommend that you get something under your belt that you can go out to bid for. So that was the logic.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was way better.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Do you want to take this one, Paul?
Not really.
Okay, then I'll take it. Resolution
total.
number, oh, yeah, we don't want that.
120?
120, sorry. Okay, resolution number 120 of 2024, obligating American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds.
Supervisor,
Yes?
do we want to do that executive session to discuss the concern regarding the contractual relationship for the Route 44 project? Before we vote on that
Before we
resolution?
vote on this?
Before we vote on that resolution, yeah.
We can certainly do that. I mean,
I would recommend that.
okay.
So,
So we're going to throw people out for 5 or 10 minutes?
Well, can we go,
What?
perhaps we could leave to the
Oh, we can leave.
clerk's office?
Her office.
Yeah.
Okay, and then people can still sit for what that's worth. Okay. And Charlie, you should probably join us for that because you can talk to the way that's structured. Because I know that we've looked at this about 12 different ways. Okay.
So it'd be
let's do
a
it.
resolution to go into...
Oh, we have to go in, vote to go
It'd be a
into
resolution to go into executive session.
A
to
motion.
It's going to be a motion to go into executive session.
Right.
To discuss contractual issues concerning the Route 44 project, and we are inviting Charlie to join us in that executive session.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
You, while inviting Charlie. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Don't trip on the court.
Exit executive session and go back into public meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you.
And I smoke.
The building department. I don't know. I can find out.
Somebody was just in there smoking. It smells like shit.
Well, what would you like me to kick out?
Wasn't me, man.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm a smoker. And it just smells horrible.
Well, I think we got a resolution in a second. You got that?
All right, I can do this. Are we ready?
Supervisor
We're ready.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
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 Winters? You want to come back?
Yeah.
Ham?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll go
Resolution
back to
number-
reading. Oh, I thought you didn't, I thought you said
I
you...
would prefer not to.
Yeah,
All right,
I'll
excellent.
read it, it's fine. Resolution 120 of 2024, obligating American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds, whereas the town of Amenia has received funds from the U.S. Department of Treasury under ARPA as part of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, and whereas American Rescue Plan Act funds are required to be obligated under contract of purchase order by December 31st, 2024, and whereas any obligated funds are required to be returned to the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and whereas the town board desires to obligate the remaining ARPA funds received by the town of Amenia for engineering services in connection with a new highway garage and salt shed facility for the town of Amenia Highway Department, the Route 44 sidewalk extension project, and Water District 1 improvements. And whereas Capital Markets has reviewed the proposed allocations and confirmed they are consistent with the allowable uses and in compliance with the requirements outlined in the ARPA guidelines. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. One, the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. Two, the town board hereby obligates a sum of $150,000 in ARPA funds to CPL Architects, Engineers, and Landscape Architects, DPC, for engineering services in connection with the new highway garage and salt shed facility for the town of Amenia Highway Department to be implemented in accordance with the town board approved engineering contract. Three, the town board hereby obligates a sum of $100,000 in ARPA funds to Raja Contractors, Inc. for the Route 44 sidewalk extension project to be implemented in accordance with the town board approved construction contract. Four, the town board hereby obligates a sum of $68,277.88 in ARPA funds to Delaware Engineering, DPC, Inc. for engineering services in connection with Water District Number 1 improvements to be implemented in accordance with the town board approved engineering contract. 5, the town board, upon review and recommendations of Capital Markets, hereby affirms that these projects comply with all applicable ARPA guidelines, including requirements for eligible uses, reporting, and record keeping. 6, the town board, in conjunction with Capital Markets, will provide oversight and monitor all expenditures to ensure compliance with ARPA requirements. 7, the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor or his authorized designee to take all steps necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution. 8, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to do the next one?
All right, this is resolution number 121 of 2024, authorizing the transfer of funds to the Highway Capital Reserve account. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia, by resolution number 109 of 2023, adopted by the town board on November 16, 2023, established a Highway Department Equipment and Machinery Reserve Fund pursuant to 6C of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York, and whereas the fund was established for the purchase of capital equipment and machinery for the town of Amenia Highway Department, such as pickup trucks, loaders, backhoes, sanders, dump trucks, and related equipment. And whereas the town of Amenia has an unexpected fund balance and would like to transfer such funds to provide for such potential capital expenditures by increasing a highway capital reserve account. Now therefore be it resolved, the recitations set forth are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town board of the town of Amenia hereby authorizes, empowers, and directs the town supervisor to transfer funds in the amount of $60,000 from Highway Fund DA, budget line number 1.05112.035.00-511.2.4, improvements CE to the Highway Department Equipment and Machinery Reserve Fund General Ledger number 203.03.000. I make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Winters?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. So that concludes our resolutions for tonight. Are there any other matters or town board comments that you'd like to bring up?
Well, actually, I would like to congratulate the Water Committee and Nancy for getting those magnets so quickly, and I think they're in the process of being sent out. She was stuffing
Yes,
envelopes as we
yeah.
speak, and so they're being mailed
They're in the
out.
mailbox now.
Okay, so they are, so that's a big step forward. And the other thing is, I did get a list of the members of the Water Committee, not of the Water District members, and their addresses and phone numbers, and we have about 80% of the phone numbers, so that I will try to get the rest of the phone numbers, so that
Great.
when an alert system, which I hope is going to come soon, we will have all that in place.
Great.
I have an update. It's actually rather disappointing. So I got an update from Optimum, or Altice, on my Wassaic, the limbs that are hanging on the cable wires down there by Castlegate. It's like
Right.
in between. I've been working on this for a while.
I know.
So Optimum called me the other day, and their response was that a service visit was made on 11/27, and they acknowledged that there are several limbs leaning on service wires. However, service is not interrupted, and they do not cut down tree limbs.
What?
To which I abruptly responded with, you hire outside companies to come and cut them down. But because service is not interrupted, they're not going to do anything about it. So I gave this information to AJ Bepan, and he is looking into my public service complaint to see where they're at on that.
Good, good.
Because
It's
I'm
very
not-
much like New York State DOT won't make road
Yeah, they don't wanna take
improvements unless someone's
responsibility
killed. Okay,
I
well,
I have
believe-
something.
I
okay,
believe in-
Paul. Oh,
I believe
wait.
in the franchise renewal agreement, there are provisions with regards to complaints or issues. And there's a procedure set forth in that agreement. If I could get a copy of that agreement from Dawn, that'd be great. I'll take a look at it and see if you may be able to go to the Public Service Commission with the complaint.
I did. I filed one.
Did you? Okay.
So he's going to find out where they're at on that.
Just having the franchise agreement in hand too, when
Would
you,
help,
when you talk to
yeah.
these people, it may be of benefit.
Okay.
So I've had a few residents reach out to me over the past month or so, complaining once again about parking downtown, speeders and all that stuff. So part of the idea of us buying a town vehicle is to allow the employees to have a vehicle to use to be able to go out and issue tickets and stuff like that for parking issues and stuff like that. I'm not sure how exactly this is going to work, but we're working that out. This is the first step. They've been asking for a town car for 20 years, and they have never gotten around to doing it. So, we're just trying to move things forward here in this town, and that's going to be one of the things the constables will be addressing, is parking. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
All right. We do have another public comment session, if Judy, if you have anything else to say.
She never lets us down.
Or Charlie, if you'd like.
They always come prepared.
Okay, this first thing's kind of out of the blue, but I didn't really pay attention. It strikes me that the amount of money we're spending on that sidewalk extension is enormous, and maybe I'm missing something, but I do not.
That's not the whole number.
I know. I do not see why that is a burning need with a lot of things that are going on in town that need to be fixed. That's first comment. Second comment is when it comes to the advisory board local law, when you eventually look at it, I don't know why something like this was even in it, but the idea that the town board can remove a member of an advisory board at will for any reason, for no particular problem or anything wrong the person has done, smacks of really stacking the deck. If you're going to have an advisory board, being able to take anybody off because maybe you don't like what they're suggesting, it really strikes me as awful. I strongly suggest you take that out.
I agree with that. Currently, the only way somebody can be removed from a committee is if they don't show up for 3 times in a row.
Right. And then
That's-
the
and
chair,
that's the-
and then the chair has to remove them, or the
Right.
town
That's the
board can
only-
remove them.
That's the only way that can happen. It can't be just because the town board
Or
says.
embezzling or something like that.
Well, yeah, they're breaking the law, but it can't be just because the town board said, hey, we don't like this guy, we're going to take, or this person, we're going to take him off that committee.
Uh-oh, another comment.
I'll keep it to 3 minutes. So, Nicole, I just forwarded you, I had email about the sim patch because
Because you go through there,
that
I'm
is
sure.
that's my hood. I emailed the Commissioner of Public Works for Dutchess County, who actually replied back to me, so I
Bob?
forwarded you. No, I forwarded that email. Yeah, it is Bob.
Yeah,
So,
we've already been there.
okay. You know, that property is also owned by DDSO, so maybe that will be one approach too.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so that's that.
I mean, Josh is ready to go there with a chainsaw and just do it
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. Well, no, it's kind of DDSO
So
doesn't have the
I'm wondering if the
manpower.
board could have a discussion about the website. I'd given a presentation of 2 different vendors, I think 2 meetings ago. And it would be great if there was some kind of action or direction that could be taken on that. And the LED sign also was presented several times ago, or several meetings ago. It'd be great if there was some kind of action or movement forward on that as well.
On what?
On the
The LED
LED
sign?
sign.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So maybe we can get that resolutions for our next meeting, so that's done before the end of the year, so we feel an enormous sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and on that topic, I know this was talked about, but just refresh me. The calling, like the all-call, is that through the website for emergencies?
Yeah, both vendors
Have
in their package has a module that's incorporated into the website that you can sign up for receiving notifications.
Okay.
And it gives you a lot of different options of notifications for when board meetings are calendared, or emergency notifications, both SMS, which is your phone, text, or by email, or both.
Okay.
Okay. So we have that information, so we'll pass that on to Ian for resolutions on both of those.
I didn't use 3 minutes, right?
I'm sorry?
I didn't use 3 minutes.
Oh, Judy, all right.
Double dipping.
I put my timer away anyway.
It's only because the website came up, and I just want to say, having looked at the website and the way it's done, and we're having the same discussion at the school, the problem is not so much the website as the fact that somebody needs to decide how it's structured. You need a plan for what you want people to be able to define, to find where they go. If you don't have a layout that is considered ahead of time so that people know where to look for things, you can get all the websites in the world and you're still going to have the same problem because nobody's going to know where to go for something. That's just a comment as somebody who actually has designed websites and is, as I say, we're having the same problem at the school. It's not the website's problem. It's the problem of people
Having an
saying,
operator.
I want this to go here. This is where they ought to be able to find this, and not having it in a logical place.
Okay. So there's going to be an executive session regarding Kent Hollow. Were you going to say something, Rosanna?
Well, I was just going to say, if we're going into executive session, I want to make sure that the only thing we're going to discuss is Ken Hollow before we dismiss anybody.
Everybody being me? Oh, well, I guess it could be these people too.
It's the only issue I have.
So
Yeah, I
that's-
mean, the last time, there were 2 other things that came up, so,
So, but this is just going to be on Ken Hollow.
Just on
correct?
Ken Hollow.
And it needs to be
Okay.
quick.
And
Okay.
it will be quick.
Can't be here until 11:30 at night.
It'll be quick.
So Leo, somebody get a second, Leo's,
I'll second it.
Nicole. And Deputy Supervisor, you're going to take those minutes?
I will.
And you're excusing,
The town clerk.
Supervisor,
I know.
council.
Supervisor and the town clerk.
it's already been pre-discussed.
okay. Lovely.